Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive, truly major shift in environmental regulations that could fundamentally rewrite how the entire mining sector operates. Back on July 27, 2026, the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and Climate Change dropped a draft notification that completely reorganizes who exactly holds the power to grant environmental clearances for some of our biggest mining projects. If you follow industrial news, or if you're just keeping an eye on environmental policy, understanding this specific bureaucratic pivot is absolutely crucial. Tweaking the core of the 2006 Environment Impact Assessment Notification? Yeah, that doesn't just happen every day. This is a monumental shift, transferring an immense amount of regulatory weight straight from the center down to local governments, and the ripple effects across the industry are going to be huge.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of this proposed change, we have to start by asking a pretty fundamental question. Who actually controls a 500-hectare mine? Seriously, think about that scale for a second. 500 hectares is an absolutely enormous tract of land. To put that into perspective, you're looking at the equivalent of roughly 1,000 football fields of continuous earth being excavated. It's massive. Historically, a project of this magnitude automatically triggered oversight from the very highest levels of the central government. And the central issue back then was a genuine fear that local authorities might just lack the resources to manage such a massive ecological footprint. But that decades-old dynamic, that is exactly what's on the verge of changing right now, setting up this fascinating shift in how we handle and decentralize environmental oversight.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core of the change. Under the older rules from the 2006 Environment Impact Assessment Notification, any non-coal mining project over 250 hectares strictly required clearance from New Delhi, the central government. Well, the newly proposed rule literally doubles that threshold. It aims to delegate power to the state government to clear non-coal mining projects all the way up to 500 hectares. This is a massive offloading of responsibility. We're talking about taking a huge volume of major mining proposals, projects that bring in serious economic revenue, but also bring some incredibly complex ecological challenges straight off the desks in New Delhi and placing them squarely back into the hands of individual states. The importance of this shift really can't be overstated. It fundamentally alters the balance of power in industrial regulation.
Section 1. Central versus state control. To truly grasp how this transition is going to play out on the ground, we need to know who's actually taking on this heavy lifting. Enter the SEIAA, or the State Environment Impact Assessment Authority. These regulatory bodies were established way back under the 1986 Environment Protection Act, specifically to handle what are called Category B environmental clearances. Now, to be fair, states aren't totally new to mining oversight. Under the 1957 Mines and Minerals Act, state governments already hold primary jurisdiction over minor minerals and general mining regulation, things like preventing illegal mining. But this proposed amendment essentially supersizes their existing mandate. And the challenge here is definitely steep. Stepping up from regulating minor sand or gravel mining to overseeing massive, highly complex non-coal megaprojects like iron ore or bauxite, that is a massive leap in administrative responsibility.
So you might be wondering, and rightly so, about the scientific expertise required to actually evaluate these megaprojects. Did the states even have the talent pool to handle this? Interestingly enough, the ministry's draft explicitly tackles this exact concern. It points out that the eligibility criteria, the qualifications, and the hard experience required for experts sitting on the state committee, the SEAC, are absolutely identical to those on the central committee, the EAC. They're governed by the exact same appendix of the 2006 notification. This is the government's built-in solution to the perceived expertise gap. Their argument is crystal clear. The state has the exact same level of mandated scientific and environmental expertise as the center, which, legally speaking, validates the state's capacity to handle these large-scale, complex appraisals.
Section 2. Why decentralize mining clearances?
So, the crucial point is, why is the central government willingly handing over the keys to such substantial industrial oversight? Well, the draft notification doesn't just announce the change and walk away, it actually provides a detailed four-part rationale framing the intended benefits here. First up, the ministry highlights that the SEIAAs have gained 2 solid decades of on-the-ground experience in the environmental clearance appraisal process. They know the ropes. Second, as we just established, the scientific expertise between state and central committees is completely equivalent. Third, and this is key, this isn't happening in a vacuum. The Ministry of Mines formally requested this delegation of power to streamline operations and cut down on bureaucratic lag. And finally, the whole shebang has been modernized through digitization, making a larger volume of heavy clearances at the state level practically manageable.
And that digitization relies entirely on the Paravesh portal.
For years, the biggest headache with industrial clearances was the physical bottleneck, right? Stacks of paperwork just moving at a snail's pace through central offices in New Delhi, delaying industrial growth and killing crucial project timelines. The notification highlights that state-level clearances are now completely online through this centralized digital system. The ministry's stance is that this digital infrastructure is the ultimate game changer. It ensures efficient, fast, and, most importantly, transparent disposal of clearance proposals. By knocking down those old physical barriers, the theory is that states can process these massive 500-hectare applications just as effectively and transparently as the central government ever could.
Section 3. Coal versus non-coal impact. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the regulatory precedent at play, which is arguably the strongest logical pillar of the ministry's entire argument. You see, states have actually already been delegated the power to appraise coal mining projects up to 500 hectares. The ministry argues that the environmental impact of non-coal mining is generally less severe than the heavy ecological footprint of coal extraction. So the logic dictates that if states are already trusted to handle 500 hectares of highly sensitive, high-impact coal mining, it only makes sense to align non-coal mining to that exact same 500-hectare threshold. It's essentially a major act of regulatory equalization, directly requested by the Ministry of Mines to make clearances easier and more uniform at the state level.
Section 4. The 60-day public window.
60, that is the exact number of days from the date this notification is published in the Gazette of India that the public has to respond. Because this is still just a draft notification, the democratic process is actively in motion here. This 60-day window is a critical opportunity for industry stakeholders, environmentalists, and everyday citizens to review the proposal and flag any challenges or issues they foresee. It's the built-in safeguard to ensure that a massive decentralization of power like this doesn't just happen without public scrutiny, formal objections, or constructive suggestions being put on the official record.
Let's move to and see how this builds your action plan. If you want to make your voice heard during this 60-day window, the process is straightforward and it's right there in the government document. First, take the time to actually read the draft notification yourself so you catch all the nuances. If you have objections or suggestions about this new 500-hectare threshold, you can write a formal letter addressed to the Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change at Indra Paryavaran Bhavan in New Delhi. Or, if you want a much faster route, you can just shoot them an email at durIIPpolicy@gov.in. The channels for public feedback are wide open and jumping in is highly encouraged.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we are left with a pretty massive question to ponder about the future of our environmental policy. Will this decentralization actually lead to greater digital efficiency and smoother industrial growth, delivering on all the benefits the ministry is promising? Or does it just shift a huge, complicated burden of environmental oversight onto state authorities who might actually struggle to manage the sheer scale? The ministry clearly believes the states are 100% ready, backed by equal expertise and that Parvesh digital portal. But the ultimate outcome of this threshold shift, that is going to shape the landscape of mining and environmental regulation for years to come. It's a fascinating development, and we'll for sure be keeping a very close eye on the final decision once the public consultation wraps up.
If you found this update helpful, please hit the like button and share this video with fellow members. For more deep dives into the latest environmental regulations and industrial news, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.